An economy for Canadians by Canadians. The Liberals' budget has been tabled, swelling the projected deficit by $36 billion. We're going to break down the numbers.
Righting a wrong. The City of Toronto has approved a new snow removal plan. We had the latest from today's executive committee.
Could the same person be responsible for breaking windows in the latest vandalism on a North York synagogue? CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan points out similarities in the surveillance video.
And happening right now, we're live at Coxwell and O'Connor, where gunfire rang out this afternoon, prompting several nearby schools to be placed in hold and secure.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Phil Perkins.
I'm Bakari Savage. Welcome to Live at 5. Well, this year's federal budget contains a deficit nearly twice the size forecast by the Liberals a year ago. This as Prime Minister Mark Carney's government prioritizes capital spending over programs and services.
Yeah, the budget projects a $78 billion deficit this fiscal year. That is up from a projection of around $42 billion in Ottawa's fall economic statement from late last year. Ottawa says the effects of the Canada-U.S. trade war and uncertainty over future trade rules have weighed heavily on the Canadian economy, while creating risk to its outlook.
Well, CP24's Beatrice Vaisman is at Queen's Park with more on the first budget of Prime Minister Mark Carney's government. Beatrice.
Bakari, Phil, this is a budget that focused largely on Canada's response to the U.S. tariffs and the trade war with our southern neighbors. Certainly, Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne is standing up in the House talking about the threat to Canada's sovereignty, the fact that the situation is unlike anything we've ever experienced before, and that our relationship jobs that were previously safe and predictable, well, that's no longer the case. And that's why this budget, as he put it, by Canadians, for Canadians, it's called Canada Strong, and it outlines how the government intends to steer the country through this tumultuous period of time and looking to expand trade partners across the world. So you mentioned the ballooning deficit. Let's dig into some of the other numbers that are included in this deficit. So we now know Ottawa is promising generational investments in key projects. What does that look like? $25 billion for housing. The federal government saying it's going to supercharge home building across the country. Also, almost $82 billion in defense spending. $73 billion of that is a new announcement. We already know that included $9 billion that Carney announced back in June when he committed to reaching NATO's target of 2% of GDP spending this year. Also, we know $115 billion is now going to be poured in over the course of 5 years when it comes to major infrastructure projects. And that includes projects from coast to coast to coast, many of which various premiers from across the country have asked the federal government for. And finally, $110 billion to drive productivity and competitiveness. That includes support for emerging technologies like AI, for example, electric vehicles, quantum, and along with more research happening as well across the country. And so here's a bit of what we heard from Federal Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne.
The speed, scale, and scope of what's happening in the world is quite unprecedented. So how do you pivot in this new world in order to prosper? And I think Canada's making the right pivot, and that's why we were singled out in these meetings to say, you may have even seen, I think the French finance minister, Roland Lescure, said, you know, they're going to look at what Canada is doing because people see that Canada gets it. And that's why I'm confident in Canada. And that's why I hope that people who are watching at home and listening, we're going to be okay.
When it comes to impacting the pocketbooks of everyday Canadians, Bakari and Phil, that certainly was not the focus of this federal budget. There's actually very little towards addressing Canadians' cost of living concerns. The government, though, insists that some of these measures that they're announcing today in this budget will help boost average wages across the country, create revenue that's going to help support health care and lower taxes across various provinces. And so certainly an interesting step the federal government has taken, a lot more spending than they were previously doing. And again, this all circles back to the changing nature of the relationship between Canada and the United States. Back to you.
Beatrice Faisman, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's hop over to municipal politics right now. The Mayor's Executive Committee has approved a new winter maintenance plan for the city.
Okay, let's go live to CP24's Artie Zakarian. Artie, you've been at City Hall all day. Let's have a closer look at the measures that councillors are hoping to implement.
Yeah, you know, every year we kind of forget what happened the year before when it comes to the snowstorms that we went through. But how could we forget what happened in February when there was two major storm events that came down within a short period of time, covering the entire city in snow, and some people were trapped in their homes because the snowplow couldn't get to their streets, and they even tried to call 311, but there was a blackout period for 311, so 29,000 people didn't get their calls answered. Actually, 99% of calls that came in were not answered. So the city's taken all of this into account. They had a consultation to trying to figure out how to not let that ever happen again. So it has a winter maintenance plan. It was approved today by the Executive Committee. It's going to go to Council, and they're going to have a vote on it as well. And what this essentially does is it brings an all-hands-on-deck approach to this year's winter snow removal and plowing system. So the existing contract that happened last year, that still exists, except the city's going to monitor that the contractors better than how they were last year. In addition, they are going to deploy other trucks, other people from different areas that the city already has and put them into the winter maintenance program. So essentially having different trucks from different departments and divisions, using those to plow the snow, to remove the snow. And so here's more from the city manager.
The one big piece that we need to think about more significantly and do improvements over time is around a large-scale removal contract, which would be on par with cities like Montreal. That's not something we, A, could execute right now, or B, afford right now. But we are doing snow removal differently. We're going to start snow removal at 8 centimeters. We're going to do things in a number of ways that people will see change. So there was one element of the report that obviously we're going to need a little more time to implement, but there are so many other things today that we presented to the Executive Committee that will make this winter's situation significantly different.
And the city will treat each snow event as an emergency, having that all-hands-on-deck approach. And as for the 311 blackout period, they said that's not going to happen ever again, that all calls will be answered. They are promising for better coordination and communication. Back to you.
Okay, live from City Hall, CP24's Artie Zakarian. It's 5:08. Let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist Adjoa and Celia Bois.
Well, Bakari, Phil, the struggle to get home continues to be very, very real. And if you're a commuter on the Don Valley Parkway, I'd probably bail early. A lot of problems happening. We'll start with the big issues happening on the southbound lanes of the Don Valley Parkway. This is on the approach to Bayview Bloor. It is this collision. It does have those two right lanes blocked. You do have the left lane getting by, but you know when anything gets blocked up on the DVP, traffic backs up from the 401. And then if you're on the northbound side, a northbound DVP on the approach to Winford, we're dealing with a long-standing collision in the two right lanes that I just can't show you because my cameras are out. Brand new problems westbound on the 401 now. It's in the Express. Just as you make your way past Dufferin or approaching Keele, stalled vehicle blocking the right lane as well as the right shoulder. And it looks like we are dealing with problems on the southbound lanes of the 400. This is on the approach to the 401. I was spotting a stalled vehicle. Not too sure if they just moved the camera, but it was the center lane that was occupied. So a very, very busy afternoon. A reminder, if you're headed towards Mississauga, we still are dealing with the closure of the intersection of Winston Churchill and Argentia following a collision involving a motorcyclist. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Thanks so much. It is 5:09, 11 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, several schools had to be placed and hold insecure. This is after shots were fired at Coxwell and O'Connor. That was this afternoon. We're going to have a live update from the scene next. Toronto police are investigating after shots rang out. This happened in East York this afternoon.
Yeah, CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live from O'Connor and Coxwell. That is a busy intersection. There's a high school just a block away.
Yeah, so there were some hold and secures put in place at local schools. Those have since been lifted. So some comforting words coming from police and officials from the Toronto District School Board about all of this. No injuries in this case, but what police are responding to were reports of shots being fired. And when they came to the scene, they did find evidence of shots being fired. I want to move out of the way, show you what we're looking at here. So this is at O'Connor and Coxwell. Police called here just after 2 o'clock this afternoon. There is a red vehicle that is in this area that is taped off by this police tape. A number of personal effects left behind on the hood of this vehicle. A wallet, a cell phone, some keys, some cash. It's unclear who that belongs to. This is at an Esso station. And as you mentioned, a very busy area, a number of people coming out here asking what happened. I have been going to some local businesses asking people what they may have seen, what they may have heard. One woman telling me that she did see a young man, a male suspect, she says, being apprehended by police. No word yet, official word from police on any arrests that had been made in this case. No word on what kind of a firearm may have been used, what may have led to this incident. But again, it was reports of shots fired to this very busy intersection that has police still investigating at this time. The police investigations, forensic identifications unit, they are on scene as well, kind of piecing together what exactly happened here. You would expect that there was a lot of surveillance video from this area, certainly outside this Esso, that likely had captured what happened here. Again, there were some hold and secures put in place at local schools. They have since been lifted, and police are asking anyone who may have any information, may have been in this area at the time. Again, just after 2 o'clock this afternoon, when an unknown number of shots were fired here. If you may have seen something or heard something, maybe you got something on a dash cam video as you were driving by, you are being asked to reach out to Toronto Police and share that information with them. For now, I'm going to throw it back to you, Phil and Bakari.
Thank you very much, Melissa, Coxwell and O'Connor. Moving on now to North York. A synagogue has been damaged by vandals for the 10th time this year.
Let's turn now to our CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan, who's joining us live in studio. Steve, there's been some clarification on the timeline. You just received that update?
Yeah, that's right. 4:30 a.m. was when this incident happened, and after it was discovered, police were called just after 6:30 a.m. And it happened at 2640 Bayview Avenue, a synagogue. As we said, the 10th occurrence this year alone. And this last occurrence, a suspect can be seen on video surveillance smashing out 5 windows on the synagogue property there. And it appears as though the suspect was using a hammer when he did this.
And so, you know, the response, obviously, since October 7th, a couple of years ago, has been to have officials stationed outside places of worship. Is that over now? Like, is this a new reality where places of worship now just kind of have to fend for themselves?
Yeah, I don't think it's feasible or realistic to have police officers out in front of every place of worship. Now, this synagogue itself did put some very good fencing up around the property. We're showing you can see the guy smashing the windows out on the property with his left hand, and I'll explain how important that is in a moment. They got some very good fencing around the property and very good video surveillance as well, as you can tell. But as the rabbi said, if a person is determined to cause damage, they're going to cause damage regardless.
Okay, now Steve, going back to the surveillance video of the suspect in action, there's some details in that video that you pointed out which police could be using for, I mean, this is the 10th time this happened. So how are police going to be using that?
So 10 occurrences on the same property. One of the people associated with the synagogue said to me today was that, on at least one other occasion, the suspect has the same gait as this person, and they are left-handed. And you can see in the video that we're showing, this person was using their left hand when they were smashing the camera. Let's listen to what the rabbi said to me earlier on.
This is obviously pretty contrary to everything we believe and everything we think. And, you know, it makes, while I have to give a shout out to Toronto Police Services and for their tremendous support and protection of us over the last 2 years, but always, it makes people wonder, how safe are we really in Toronto, walking the streets, coming to our house of worship, to our synagogue, just doing the things that we do as Torontonians.
I got to ask, so what do they do next? Obviously, it's the 10th time. Chances are there's going to be an 11th time. What do you do? Do you have a private security there instead and just kind of wait?
Yeah, we might see a heightened police presence in and around that area. Now, the investigators are working actively right now. They're going through a bunch of different video surveillance cameras, and at some point, they may connect at least 2 of these occurrences to the same suspect. There's not a hesitation, but when you make a connection between 2 occurrences, you need to make sure that they are, in fact, connected, because once you connect them, you're connected with them forever. So there may take some time to do that, but based on what information I've been given by people at the synagogue, it's very likely that perhaps the same suspect has committed at least 2 of these crimes.
And Steve, as we wrap up, what do you want to say about this overall? I mean, we're talking about the 10th time.
Well, there's resilience in people as well. The rabbi had said that, yes, it's been 10 occasions, but we continue to go on worshiping the way we are, gathering as a community. So they are not being deterred from carrying on their day-to-day activities, which is very important for any community, and the police will actively investigate, of course.
All right. CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
It's 5:17, 11 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, why the U.S. Transportation Secretary is warning of chaos in the skies.
A new report from the Salvation Army suggests that most Canadians believe that U.S. tariffs are hitting them in the wallets.
Yeah, the online survey from the Angus Reid Institute found that 86% agree that tariffs are driving up the cost of everything. 79% believe American trade policies are having the biggest impact on low-income households. The Salvation Army's annual Canadian poverty and socioeconomic analysis also found the portion of Canadians who feel optimistic about their finances dropped from 51% last year to 46% this year. Healthcare remains the most common worry for Canadians.
Well, Glenn Van Gulik with Salvation Army says that contributions are down as more people struggle with the higher cost of living.
The report shows a sharp rise in job insecurity and declining optimism about the future. Of course, as we know, so many Canadians are feeling that squeeze. The rising costs of food, groceries, housing, all of those things are really having an impact on people's physical and mental well-being. And so many who have in the past perhaps donated to the Salvation Army or are finding that they need to turn to the Salvation Army for support at this time of the year.
Well, those interested in supporting the Salvation Army can make a donation online.
Okay, south of the border, U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is predicting chaos in the skies if the government shutdown drags on and air traffic controllers miss a second paycheck.
And the FAA slows down or even stops flights temporarily anytime it is short on controllers or if there is an equipment problem. There have already been numerous delays at airports across the country, sometimes hours long during the shutdown. Situation is expected to get worse as people are forced to continue working for free. Aviation employees already missed one paycheck last week, and their next payday is scheduled for next Tuesday.
I think open up, more controllers come to work the next day, and we'll see immediate results. Just one point I'll make on this as well. The controllers got 90% of one payment, 80 to 90% of one payment. They missed the second paycheck. On Thursday, they get an email pay stub that'll show what their next payment is going to be. So this Thursday, they'll get an email that shows that their pay stub is a big fat zero.
Duffy's blaming the Democrats who will not sign the bill to reopen the government until tax credits, which make health insurance cheaper for millions of Americans, are extended, and Trump reverses cuts to Medicaid.
Well, the death toll from Hurricane Melissa has now risen to 67, 32 in Jamaica alone.
Yeah, as of yesterday, power has been restored to about half of Jamaica, and insured losses on the island could top $4 billion. Peak tourism season, it starts in a month. Officials are rushing to rebuild from the catastrophic Category 5 storm, which destroyed much of the island's western region. The damage from Melissa across the Caribbean, it's pegged at between $48 and $52 billion.
It's 5:22, 11 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, we're going to meet the first head coach of the Toronto Tempo. English soccer icon David Beckham was bestowed with a new honor today.
Yeah, I can't believe this hasn't happened yet. Beckham was knighted by King Charles at a ceremony at Windsor Castle, recognizing the former England captain and Manchester United player for his services to sport and charity. He was previously awarded the Order of the British Empire in 2003. Beckham played a key role in bringing the 2012 Olympics to London. Beckham's wife, a fashion designer and former Spice Girl, that's what she's known for. Victoria also got a new title, Lady Beckham. That's nice. It could be the name of her new album.
Well, this year's Grey Cup in Winnipeg is already sold out, but the home team's not going to be playing.
Wah, wah. This comes after a record-setting year for the Blue Bombers, who sold out every home game but lost to Montreal in the conference semifinal. Fans from across the country will still pack the stands in Winnipeg November 16th to witness the crowning of this year's CFL champ. It's down to the Final Four right now. Montreal will battle the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the East Final in the Hammer Saturday afternoon, and BC will take on the Rough Riders in the West Final in the evening game. All right, Toronto Tempo introduced the team's new head coach.
Yeah, two-time WNBA champion Tandy Brondello is going to lead the team for its inaugural season. The Australians coming to Toronto after 4 seasons with the New York Liberty, which included a championship win in 2024. Brondello also won the WNBA title with the Phoenix Mercury in 2014.
To build a team from the ground up, that really excited me. As Monica said, I've won 2 championships. I've been to the playoffs every single year, so there's no pressure coming into this new season. But that really excites me, the challenge that we have ahead of us, and to do it in another country really excites me. I mean, the team is the Toronto Tempo, but I know it's going to be a Canadian team. And obviously I am from Australia, so we're both from the Commonwealth. And Australians and Canadians, what I do know, they have so much passion for sport, and I know that they're going to really support us.
At good times, Toronto Tempo's inaugural season tips off in May.
Well, the Raptors, they're going to go for a 3rd straight win tonight as they take on the Bucks at home.
Great addition.
Ooh! Jay kidding me! Rising up on the offensive rebound.
With authority, the Raptors got 72 points from the Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, R.J. Barrett trio on Sunday's victory against the Grizzlies. Milwaukee won the previous meeting with Toronto last month. Tip-off, 7:30.
It's 5:27, 11 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Prime Minister Mark Carney's government has tabled its first budget. We'll have more on what it means for us. It's being billed as an economy for Canadians by Canadians. The Liberals' budget has been tabled, swelling the projected deficit by $36 billion. We'll break down the numbers.
Righting a wrong. The City of Toronto has approved a new snow removal plan. We have the latest from today's executive committee this hour.
And could the same person be responsible for breaking windows and latest vandalism on a North York synagogue? CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan joins us in studio.
And we're live at Coxwell and O'Connor. This is where shots were heard this afternoon, prompting several nearby schools to be placed and held secure.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Phil Perkins. Thanks for joining us. Well, this year's federal budget contains a deficit nearly twice the size forecast by Liberals a year ago, as Prime Minister Mark Carney's government prioritizes capital spending over programs and services.
The budget projects a $78 billion deficit this fiscal year. That's up from a projection of around $42 billion in Ottawa's fall economic statement from late last year. Ottawa says that the effects of the Canada-U.S. trade war and uncertainty over future trade rules, they've weighed heavily on the Canadian economy while creating risks to its outlook.
CP24's Beatrice Vaisman is at Queen's Park with more on the first budget of Prime Minister Mark Carney's government. Hey there, Beatrice.
Hey, Phil. Hey, Bakari. This is all about what the government calls a non-ambiguous, bold plan to secure Canada's future. The reason being, as you mentioned, the really shaky ground on which the Canada-U.S. relationship currently stands. I mean, the finance minister, François-Philippe Champagne, wow, his last name just totally escaped me there on the air, just like that. The finance minister is saying that certainly the way that the relationship is going between Canada and the U.S. Is not like anything we've ever seen before. While in the past, Canada could rely on its U.S. neighbors for jobs, for prosperity, for a stable trade relationship, the time for that, according to François-Philippe Champagne, is gone. And so that's why Canada is having to find ways to pivot and to come up with new strategies to deal with that reality. Part of that is this new, as you mentioned, economy by Canadians, for Canadians. And so let's talk about some of the investments that Ottawa is now promising. These are generational investments, as they're calling it. $25 billion for housing to, as they call it, supercharge home building across the country. $30 billion for defense and security. That includes almost $82 billion over 5 years to rebuild, rearm, reinvest in the Canadian military, including $9 billion that Carney announced back in June when it comes to committing Canada to reach NATO's target of 2% GDP spending this year. $115 billion over 5 years for major infrastructure projects, and $110 billion to drive productivity and competitiveness. That includes emerging technology support for sectors like AI, quantum, and electric vehicles. This amounts to, as the Finance Minister Champagne said, leading to $1 trillion in investments in this country. And so here's a bit of what he had to say when he was delivering his budget in the House this afternoon.
You look at what happened and you say, well, obviously we need to support workers. Obviously we need to pivot. Obviously we need to fight for auto industry in this country. And at the same time, the best way, we need to be less reliant on one market. So you need to invest in your trade corridor. You need to invest in the skill of your people. And you need to invest also to make life more affordable. So all in all, I think Canadians would understand 75% of it is really the headwind that we have faced, but Canada is not unique in that. The world has faced it, and you see it with global growth, which has been readjusted lower.
When it comes to addressing the average Canadian's concerns over being able to put a roof over their head, put food on the table, addressing the cost of living, nothing specifically about that in the budget. But what we heard from the finance minister is that some of the investments announced today will help ensure a more long-term prosperous future, more stable wage increases, for example, stable healthcare system for years and years to come. As for Ontario's asks, I'm here at Queen's Park. We know that the provincial government was looking for more investments in the Ring of Fire, more investments in nuclear energy, and funding for the 401 tunnel that the Premier insists he wants to get built to address congestion. We didn't see anything about any of those initiatives explicitly. Back to you.
Okay, live from Queen's Park, CP24's Beatrice Baseman. With more reaction to the federal budget at Queen's Park, we heard from Liberal finance critic Stephanie Bowman.
My first reaction was that it's a great day to be Canadian. This is actually, I think, a really strong budget for Canada. It will create growth, it will create jobs, and it will create opportunity for all of us, especially in the face of U.S. tariffs. I think it will be a really strong budget in terms of making Canada and Ontario more competitive and more productive. So I really hope that the Premier and the Finance Minister take a look and follow the lead of the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance federally, because one of the big things that you see here is tax cuts. We've been calling for tax cuts for middle-income families, for small businesses, and those are the kinds of things that this federal budget is addressing, and those are actually really strong stimulants to create a stronger economy here in Ontario.
Now let's take a look at some of the other highlights of this budget. The Carney Liberals say that they're likely to scrap the emissions cap on oil and gas production, as other moves likely will make that policy unnecessary. The budget says that with a strengthened industrial carbon price, improved regulations to cut methane emissions, and scaling up the use of carbon capture and storage systems would eliminate the need for the emissions cap. The emissions cap has triggered major disagreements between the federal Liberals and the Alberta government. Scrapping it has been among the top demands of the opposition Conservatives.
Well, Ottawa plans to cut international student admission targets almost in half to around 150,000 annually starting next year. The planned number of temporary workers, that's being cut to 230,000 in 2026, down from about 368,000 this year. The government also plans to admit 380,000 new permanent residents annually for the next 3 years, with almost two-thirds of them going to economic immigrants. Well, the number of permanent residency visas being issued for family reunification and humanitarian reasons, that's being reduced.
And the federal government intends to slash the public service by 10% over the next 3 years, eliminating up to 40,000 jobs. It strays from the election promise to cut the number of federal employees solely through attrition.
Well, the mayor's executive committee has approved a new winter maintenance plan for the city.
Yeah, that was a big mess up last year. Let's go live to CP24's Arda Zakarian at City Hall for a closer look at the measures councillors are hoping to implement.
Oh boy, it was a big mess up. But you know what? The city is owning it, and they are planning to do a lot better for this coming winter year. So what was approved today was the city's winter maintenance plan. It was approved by executive committee. It still needs to go to council, and they need to vote on it. But essentially what this year is going to do that's different from last year is an all hands on deck approach. The contract that they had last year, that contract still stands. However, in addition to this, now the city is able to deploy other trucks and other staff from different areas and different departments and divisions in the city and bring them to the winter maintenance plan to help remove all of that snow. Now, if you remember, we all remember last winter, last February, where we had 2 major snow events in a short amount of time. Well, the city says with this new plan, they plan to treat each winter event as an emergency. Here's more from the city manager.
What we're doing this year is utilizing the entire city's budget to bring some more resources to bear. So the contract is not changing. We're not spending more in terms of the contracts for snow. We are adding some staff. There's a slight cost to that, but we've absorbed it within the transportation services budget. And they're a large division, so that's easy to do. So the new investments are really about redeploying our current assets in different ways and then better utilizing the assets we already have.
And the city plans to manage the contractors more closely. They plan to have better communication and coordination throughout. Let's say the sidewalk is plowed and then the major plow for the street comes in and then there's a new snow pile on the sidewalk. They said that's not going to happen. They're going to coordinate it in a much more cohesive way to make sure that the areas that are plowed remain plowed. So that's what they hope to see. And they also have new plows themselves. The city has a new fleet to deploy this year. So all big major changes. Hopefully it all goes as planned. Back to you.
Yeah, they got to communicate. We know that didn't happen after Game 7 with the TTC, and maybe they can figure this out for winter because, yeah, it's coming. It's Toronto. It's a thing that happens every year. Thanks so much. All right, there's no snow on the roads right now, Adjo and Celia, right? Unless something has changed.
Okay, so we're going to check back in with Adj in a little bit. Right now it's 5:39, 11 degrees. This is Live at 5.
When we come back, Toronto police say a synagogue in North York was vandalized for the 10th time this year. We'll chat with CP24 crime analyst Steve Ryan.
Well, you're dealing with so many problems if you're headed out this evening on the major routes. We'll start with this collision out there, Mississauga, westbound on the 401. This is just as you approach Mississauga Road. As you head in the express lanes. It's the 2 left lanes that are blocked. This camera froze, but the issues are still here, and the delays are there pretty significant. They do extend from as far back as Huron, Ontario, then further west on the 401, the ramp to Mississauga Road, partially blocked with a stall. Going to show you the Don Valley Parkway, headed on the southbound side, slows off the 401, does not improve until you approach and pass Bayview Bloor. That's because on the approach to Bayview Bloor, we have this ongoing collision still in the 2 left lanes. Very hard to see as night is upon us. And that means reducing visibility, so drive with a bit of extra care. And the Gardner, at least, is problem-free, still slow exiting the downtown core from York Bay Yonge in sections out towards about Grand. A heads up on city streets on Kipling, right at Rexdale. We're dealing with a collision involving a motorcyclist, an area you want to avoid. Also an area you've had to avoid all afternoon long in Mississauga. Argentia, right at Winston Churchill, closed following a serious collision. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Adjo, thanks so much. Let's go to North York now. A synagogue has been damaged by vandals or a vandal for the 10th time this year.
CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan joins us live in studio. Steve, how are police looking at this? Are they investigating this as a hate crime?
Well, they haven't said yet, but that's always a possibility when you've got a place of worship that's been targeted on 8 or 10 different occasions. But remember, a hate-motivated crime is not a criminal offense. It's the motivation behind the criminal offense. So in this particular case, let's use these smashed-out windows that we're showing right now. That is a mischief charge. if the police can prove that the mischief was committed as a result of hatred towards a person's race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation. So in this case, it would be hatred towards a person's religion. If they are convicted of a mischief in court, well, then the Crown can ask for a more enhanced sentence as a result of the hatred being the aggravating factor, as we're showing the suspect right now using a hammer in their left hand. I did speak with somebody at the synagogue earlier today and said that at least one other occasion there is a suspect that is left-handed and walks with the same gait. So there is a possibility, perhaps it is the same suspect, but it'll be something that the police will have to continue to work on.
So how do they figure that out? Like, do they just like hang around the synagogue, see if anyone's walking with a certain gait like that? And I'm obviously not officers. Like, how do they find this person?
Well, you're going to, first off, go through all of the occurrences and compare the surveillance video to see if there are any similarities. And then when you develop a suspect, or even this here alone, this video that we're showing, the police can perhaps enhance that with some stills and then put that out to see if anybody knows who this person might be, and then they will follow up on every lead. Let's first hear from the rabbi who I spoke with earlier today.
There are always people in society who will take the low road. So this is that. So we should not be deterred or discouraged from taking the high road that we're trying to pursue.
Damage occurs on the synagogue. Does that change how you do things, or you just go about your day-to-day routines?
We really do our best to go about our business. Yeah, and not let that stand in our way. The idea is to disrupt. So if we had our service this morning at 7 o'clock, we had a full quorum show up, and we continue to do what we do.
Photo released of the suspect. So yes, you can't see his face, but the clothing is pretty identifiable, and the fact that he's swinging a hammer with the left hand, that could be a tell.
Okay, so Steve, when this begins to gain a little bit more traction in the public, police are coming out saying that this person is left-handed, they walk a certain way, will it start to click for the suspect?
For the suspect, perhaps, but more so, hopefully, for the people who are looking at the video. They may recognize that person. They don't need to know who they are. They may know of a person who is left-handed. Left-handed is a rarity when it comes to especially swinging hammers. So if anybody has information, if they believe that they recognize who this person might be, they certainly should give the police a call.
Right. And, just quickly, if you are, the people running the synagogue, I don't know if they have private security, but is it now time to invest in that?
Yeah, that's something that the rabbi didn't really touch on. But what he did say was they did put fences up. They did put surveillance cameras up. They were hoping that was going to be a deterrent. But he said these offenses or these crimes are not going to deter his community from continuing to go to their synagogue and worshiping. So this will be an ongoing investigation, and the police will use all of this evidence that we've just shown, and they'll eventually solve this, I'm sure.
Joining us live in studio, CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ron. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, bye.
Well, Toronto police are investigating. This is after shots were heard in East York this afternoon.
Yeah, CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live from O'Connor and Coxwell, where police have taped off a gas station. I know it just happened, but are you hearing anything more about this?
Yeah, so the investigation, Phil and Bakari, still very much underway at this time. We've been watching as officers have been walking through the scene. It's around an Esso gas station, so the entire area is taped off with that police tape. And that includes a red vehicle that is also on the scene. When we arrived, there were a number of personal effects on the hood of that vehicle, a wallet, cell phone, keys, that kind of thing. It's not clear exactly how that came to be. One witness telling me that she did see police detaining a young man. We haven't had that confirmed by police. She said that he had some sort of relationship with this red vehicle. Again, waiting for official word from police when it comes to that. Now, police are here because they were responding to reports of gunshots being heard. And they're also saying, police, that they did find evidence of gunfire in this area as well. No injuries here. It happened just after 2 o'clock. A lot of schools in this neighborhood, this busy section of East York. We understand that there were schools that were put under hold and secure. That was just as a precaution that has since been lifted. And now police are asking anyone who has any information. Maybe you're driving through this area, Coxwell, O'Connor. Again, we're watching a lot of traffic move through here right now. That would have been the case around 2 o'clock as well. maybe you got some dash cam video, or maybe you saw something, you are being asked to contact Toronto Police. Obviously, outside this SO, there is a surveillance video as well that would certainly have some footage, I'm guessing, that police are including in their investigation at this point. So again, reports of gunshots being fired, evidence of gunfire here, but no injuries at this time. And we're waiting for word on any sort of arrest or suspect in this case. We're now going to toss it back to you, Bakari and Phil.
All right, thank you very much, Melissa Duggan at O'Connor and Coxwell. It is 5:48, 11 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, coming up, Aeroplan members, they're getting more time to use their points before they expire. A gastrointestinal illness has sickened an undisclosed number of students and staff at an elementary school in Lancaster.
Yikes. Hamilton Public Health Services was notified yesterday of several individuals at Immaculate Conception Catholic Elementary School who have experienced diarrhea and vomiting since Halloween. HPHS says most cases appear to be mild and consistent with stomach flu, and it's working closely with staff to prevent more people from getting sick. Switching gears now, Justice Minister Sean Fraser says the government is not considering the notwithstanding clause to overrule a Supreme Court decision that deemed one-year mandatory minimum sentences for child porn convictions unconstitutional.
Sexual crimes committed against kids are amongst the most despicable that exist within our society. We just put legislation on the table that can deal with consecutive sentencing for such crimes and that would prohibit courts from ordering house arrest for sexual crimes committed against kids. Over the next number of weeks, we're putting together another piece of legislation that's going to take further action to deal with sexual exploitation of kids in an online environment, and we're looking at harsher penalties right now. The path forward will involve certain policy choices. I don't necessarily think we need to override the Constitution to fix these problems, but we are going to fix the gap.
But is the notwithstanding clause still an option on the table?
We don't intend to override the Constitution to fix the problem. There's other solutions that are apparent to us.
Well, last week, the Supreme Court ruled mandatory one-year jail sentences for accessing or possessing child pornography removes judges' discretion to impose sentences other than imprisonment when appropriate. Well, the decision affirms a ruling of the Quebec Court of Appeal, which said the mandatory minimum sentences violated the Charter guarantee against cruel or unusual punishment. And the CEO of North America's largest independent steel pipe and tube manufacturer is offering rewards to Canadians who spot imported steel being used in public construction projects.
Windsor native Barry Zeckelman of Zeckelman Industries says the first person to submit a photo of imported steel being used on projects funded by Ottawa or the province will be eligible to receive a $1,000 reward. The company says foreign materials used in Canadian projects weakens the economy and exports local jobs. Also, Air Canada is giving Aeroplan members more time before their points expire. The airline extending its expiration deadline by a year to November 30th, 2026. The expiry policy was put in place in July 2020 during the COVID pandemic when members were unable to redeem their points. The move comes as Air Canada prepares for another round of Aeroplan changes next year. That'll shift how points are earned. Starting January 1st, points will be awarded based on dollars spent rather than distance traveled. It is 5:54, 11 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, we're going to take a look at preparations for the 121st Original Santa Claus Parade.
All right, we got the distillery tree being set up, and now we got preparations for the 121st Original Santa Claus Parade happening right now.
La, 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly. La, 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 la.
This year's parade is going to be November 23rd. It'll feature 28 handcrafted floats, bands, celebrity clowns, and of course, Santa and Mrs. Claus. 750,000 guests are expected to line the route. Well, today, organizers offered a tour of the parade workshop, and they welcomed some very special holiday guests.
Who's there?
The parade this year will be dedicated to celebrating community spirit and the joy that unites us all over the holidays. This is what makes our parade so special. More than 750,000 parade goers of all ages, faiths, and backgrounds, joined by diverse Canadians from all corners of the country, watching at home or online. We will all come together on Parade Day to officially kick off the holiday season, celebrating hope, family, and love.
Mrs. Claus and I are more than excited about November 23rd. This is the favorite place for us to come. But before we start, let me just give some kids some tips for the parade, because this is really important. Well, when you're on the parade route, look around. You'll see all kinds of tinsel, and you'll see lights, and you'll see singing, and you'll see floats. And just keep in mind, that's not just tinsel and makeup. That's the magic of the parade. The parade is a magic place, and so every time you see the smile from somebody else beside you in the parade, wherever it may be, just think that's a little bit of magic.
Santa Claus Parade will usher in the festive season on Sunday, November 23rd. Bakari, I was in a Santa Claus Parade. I was a nutcracker for 3 years. I guarded Santa. He's still around because of me. It was good. Got me
Right
started
now
in
it's
this biz.
5:59, 11 degrees. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Christmas. It's around the corner, guys. The, CTV News at 6 is next.